Let us start off this webinar. First of all, welcome. Thank you so much for joining this webinar on AI in testing. My name is Sairam. I'm the product growth manager at BrowserStack. We have with us two experts in AI in testing. As you may know, AI as a technology we're in the middle of that revolution right now, and every industry is figuring out ways to uh, make themselves better, and the same goes to testing as well. And we're looking forward to the conversation. If I could just first share my screen. Same goes for software testing. We're trying to make testing faster and smarter through AI. We have with us S. Balasubramanian from TCS. Bala, if you could just introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah. Am I audible, Sai?
Yes, Bala.
Yeah. Hello, Sai. Good evening. Hello, friends. Good evening, good morning, and good afternoon to everyone. My name is Bala. It's a pleasure to meet you all through this webinar. I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the TCS and BrowserStack teams for providing me with this opportunity to share my insights about the current AI and Gen AI trends and their impact on software testing as a test automation practitioner. I started my IT journey in 1999 and is in software testing for 20 plus years. I have predominantly worked in the test automation area, performed various roles such as test automation engineer, lead, consultant, architect, and advisor. Currently supporting our BFSI global customers with test automation advisory and consulting services in TCS. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Bala. I work with Shashank Jain. Shashank Jain is a group product manager at BrowserStack as well. Shashank, if you could introduce yourself too.
Hey everyone, and welcome again to this webinar. And today I'm honored to host one of the leading industry experts in testing, Bala. And for this webinar, so I'm at BrowserStack. I'm currently leading the AI initiative starter, and today I'll be speaking with Bala about what are new trends and opportunities with AI in testing. How do we implement AI in testing workflows? With specific testing challenges, your best practices, and Bala will also walk us through some of the practical insights and the experience that he has gained through his work in this field. So I'm looking forward to this exciting, an hour or so, and I hope that everyone enjoys this session with all of us. Over to you, Sai.
Thank you so much for that, Bala and Shashank. Just quick housekeeping items. Just wanted to inform you folks that this session will run for 60 minutes. We'll have a 45-minute discussion and we'll have a separate 15-minute session just for Q&A. Meanwhile, during the session itself, in the Zoom Q&A section, I would encourage everybody to type in their questions. We will either answer them during the session or will be taken up by either Shashank or Bala towards the end. Also, the session will be recorded and it will be made available through email at the end of it. That's mostly it for now from me. Bala and Shashank, please take it away from here.
Thank you, Sai. And thank you again, everyone, for joining this webinar. And thank you, Bala, for giving us this time. We'll start with, we would like to know more about you, and we would like to know that what led you to specialize in test automation, and how does your role as senior test automation advisor differ from traditional testing roles?
Thanks, Ashan. So I started my IT career as a Java developer in 1999. And during the 2001-2002 period, there was a strong push to start a separate software testing function. And Tata Group was one of the early visionaries, started the separate software testing practice. Once my Java project was over, I got the opportunity to work in an end-to-end testing project in 2002. This has opened avenues for other testing engagements, and based on my Java development experience, I have picked up test automation skills very fast and was involved in test automation framework design and development and executed using UFT. Previously it was QTP, now UFT with API testing features added for few of the customer engagements. I also worked in non-functional test automation using LoadRunner. This kind of test automation framework design and development experience helped me to work in a COE kind of a setup where I have to support the test automation solutions for different customers' requirements evaluate new test automation tools, build test automation accelerators, provide technical guidance specific to test automation related queries, etc. This journey goes on and on. The current role as senior test automation advisor requires to analyze the existing test automation maturity in customers' landscape, analysis of the existing test automation tools and frameworks, understand the current test automation process and challenges faced with respect to testing and automation, and based on this to suggest opportunities for improvements and recommendation. As AI and GenAI are currently making inroads in software testing space, currently focusing on AI and GenAI based quality engineering solutions for our BFSI customers. Thanks, Ashan.
Okay, that's super awesome. So, like I again would say we are honored to have such a leading industry expert with us in this webinar. And so, Bala, as you mentioned that AI is helping you scale all of the functions in testing, right? So, with this rapid advancement of AI, like what are the AI applications that would provide the most impact in testing?
Yeah, thanks, Ashan. In fact, AI is revolutionizing the field of testing, both AI and GenAI. And AI and GenAI impact cuts across the entire software test lifecycle. So there are various quality engineering use cases across test planning, test design, test execution, test maintenance, and test reporting that are influenced by both AI and GenAI. AI with machine learning and deep learning intelligent algorithms are existing for the last few years, whereas GenAI has made its presence felt in the last 6 quarters. GenAI will generate the text, code, or image. In testing parlance, text is manual test cases generation, and code is test automation scripts generation. The quality engineering use cases with the GenAI impact are, in fact, test strategy is the first one, but the way large language models provide the initial base version with it's like a template we can say, which requires additional contextualization based on our testing requirements. We have to issue the prompts as well as to provide sample test documents from our repository to refine the test strategy. Apart from that, the GenAI is very useful for manual test cases generation, test automation script generation, synthetic test data generation, SQL queries based on plain English text, and these are all the GenAI impact. And in fact, we also have AI use cases which we are currently using mostly in test execution, maintenance, and the reporting side. For few of them, there are overlaps. Probably, both the GenAI and AI will support those use cases, but we need to see how to leverage the best of them. For example, self-healing tests that will be mostly in the execution phase. Visual testing to compare, and see any discrepancies are there. For example, if I try to do a cross-browser testing and see, if any changes are there with respect to Chrome browser versus Edge browser, I can do visual testing. Predictive analytics, root cause analysis is one of the important aspects. AI would be very useful. Self-healing environments. In fact, the AI can detect and fix the issues in test environments. Test optimization, intelligent test scheduling, test report analysis with the detailed insights. In fact, we have to leverage the best of both the AI and the GenAI worlds for our quality engineering requirements. However, it's crucial to address ethical considerations and ensure that AI-powered testing is used responsibly and transparently for our requirements. Thanks, Ashan.
Got it. So there's huge opportunity. I would say like there's so many things that where we can leverage AI and actually make us faster and smarter. So BrowserStack has been also doing some work on the AI, and as you mentioned, like about when you started this thing that test planning and test authoring is where AI can help us get faster, get more coverage and stuff. So BrowserStack has also been doing some work there, and we have seen really promising results. I would love our friends who have joined us to check out this link that we have provided in the chat box. You should be able to access it there. So this feature that we have recently released would let you generate test cases just by uploading a PRD into our test management tool, and we are seeing accuracy numbers north of 90% there with a very decent coverage. So would love guys to just explore it out. Moving on from there, Bala. So from your experience, like what are walk us through some best practices for balancing AI-driven automation with traditional methods. to create a robust testing strategy?
Yeah, thanks, Ram. It's a very good question. In fact, we are always best practices would be very helpful when we are trying to embark AI-driven automation. And one of the important aspects is software testing is an integral part of customers' estate for many years. Thousands of functional test cases and test automation scripts have been built and enhanced further over the period of time. So customers don't want to disturb their testing ecosystem and altogether bring the AI-driven automation from day one. Instead, they would prefer to leverage the existing artifacts effectively while gradually introducing AI-driven automation. We need to see how to leverage AI-driven automation for the different quality engineering use cases based on existing test process maturity. As part of the best practices, we need to first identify the low-hanging fruits. For example, there is a huge regression test case. We need to prioritize the test cases based on business criticality and priority and come out with a risk-based test suite. So this would be a first step, so that we will see how AI contributes in this space. And we also can leverage AI to analyze test failures and understand the failure patterns, perform defects analysis and understand the defects patterns, optimized test suite to be executed during each build, because test optimization also will be done by AI. So we can leverage AI to optimize the test suite that have to be executed as part of each build. So AI can initially learn from the business and functional SMEs and able to perform this exercise over the period of time. Once we are able to taste the success, we have to gradually integrate the other quality engineering use cases as we gain more confidence and experience. Always begin with the small pilot projects to see how AI responds to QE requirements and identify areas for improvements. Consider potential biases in AI algorithms and plan steps to address them as part of estimates, because the models are also evolving and there is an inherent bias associated with the models. So we have to take care of these factors into consideration. Based on the pilot results, proceed further with a full-fledged implementation approach. Before starting with the pilot, we need to evaluate the different large language models and the subscription costs, infra required based on the quality engineering requirements. In some cases, we may need to host open source large language models like Falcon and all. Or Mistral is one of the freeware LLMs. So what would be the infra required? We need to understand whether the GPUs are required and what would be its future scalability. All these aspects to be taken into consideration. ROI computation is very, very important. Current testing costs versus the future projected testing costs. So there might be multiple combinations that we need to work on ROI. There are commercial hyperscalers from AWS, Azure, or Google. So they have their own large language models. And we also have open source and commercial tools depending upon the tech stack. So predominantly, BFSI has open source tools as well as commercial tools. Different commercial tools are used in BFSI landscape. And the second combination is we can also leverage Hugging Face open source or freeware LLM models like Meta, Llama 2 or Mistral AI or Falcon, these kind of models with the open source and commercial tools. So once we do the ROI computation, that would give us the clarity. And we also need to take into consideration upskilling of the resources to work in AI projects. So factoring AI and Gen AI training costs, that is also important. Once the team starts working, build reusable prompts and save the prompts for reuse. That is also one of the best practices we need to take into consideration. Define clear metrics to measure the effectiveness of AI-driven automation. Track key performance indicators like test creation and execution time, defect detection rate and test coverage, and whether AI and Gen AI is able to improve the performance over the period of time. And last but not the least, AI-driven testing has to be used responsibly and ethically. So these are all some of the best practices to be followed while balancing the AI-driven automation with traditional methods. And this will help out to come out with a robust testing strategy.
Got it, Bala. So I think we all understand the opportunity is really huge, and there's so much that we can do by leveraging AI. And so moving on from there, and we talked about that, now that opportunity is there, and I'm pretty sure that teams have already started adopting AI or are very eager to adopt AI. let's focus more on how to implement AI in testing workflows. So, what we would love to hear from you is that for teams who are starting to integrate AI into their testing workflows, what foundational steps would you recommend to ensure a successful implementation?
Yeah, thanks, Sushant. It's a good question because we already saw in the previous discussion how best practices would help. The best practices here also will come as part of the foundational steps. For example, we need to identify the potential quality engineering use cases. So typically, test cases generation, and in some cases, scripts migration also is a potential use case. Because nowadays, this is also one of the important aspects that we need to take into consideration. The second is technology stack to be supported for test automation, and what should be the underlying test automation tool to be used. For example, Selenium for web or Playwright is used, Cypress is used, or for desktop and mainframe applications, we are seeing lots of commercial tools available in the market. Whether those tools are also coming out with the enhanced AI and GenAI features, we need to look at it because that would help to integrate with the target test automation tool. And we also need to see which are the appropriate AI models we discussed, which are all the, for example, GPT-4o Mini, AWS Cloud AI models, or Google Vertex AI models. These are all the models are Meta Llama 2, and evaluate the tools that can be integrated with LLMs and infra required to host the LLMs. And available testing artifacts, data to train the LLM, because the way LLMs are trained is against the internet sources. So when we give any input in the form of a prompt, it will process our input and provides the information based on the training it has received from internet sources. So to provide more contextualization specific to our requirements, we need to provide a diversified and representative data set, like historical test cases we can provide, code repositories we can provide, mainly the automation test scripts, sample scripts, and test logs as part of the training. And we have to accurately label the data to train the AI models effectively. So once it is done, we have to see whether we have the right test automation framework in place before the AI integration. So as mentioned earlier, otherwise LLM will generate plain vanilla test automation scripts which we don't want. We want the test automation scripts generated to be aligned with our test automation framework. And the training aspects, and we already talked about start with a small pilot and refine the AI strategy. Continuously fine-tune the large language model based on the feedback and with new data. That is very important. And ensure guardrails are in place. So these are all the foundational steps that we need to consider. Thank you.
Got it, Bala. So again, building on the similar lines that now that there's so much that we can do, and there's so many tools out there which can help us do all of these things, right? So for all these AI-driven testing tools, like what criteria do you believe are essential for evaluating their effectiveness and their suitability for a given project?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Shashank. In fact, many tools are available, and particularly with AI features. And lots of existing tools are also enhanced with AI and GenAI enabled features. So there are two aspects that we need to look at it. One is business is embarking different multi-year transformation programs. For example, lots of digital transformation programs are happening nowadays. Cloud migration is happening. Mainframe modernization is happening. So these transformation programs have to be addressed with QE transformation, because QE also had to be transformed along with the business transformation. So what it means QE transformation? The testing tools have to be aligned to support these transformation programs. AI and GenAI testing tools have to be analyzed and evaluated for this purpose. Second aspect is transformation of existing quality engineering. So in fact, in many of the customers' landscape, existing tools are leveraged for long time, multiple years. And there is a need to review and see whether the tool stack has to be replaced with next-gen tools or not to align with current trends. For this purpose also, we need to analyze and evaluate the tools. And when we are evaluating, we always have to consider whether the tools are having AI, GenAI features, and if not, what would be the roadmap, etc. And we have to come out with a comprehensive tool selection checklist to shortlist the tools for our QE requirement. Some important considerations we have to consider tool support for the heterogeneous technology stack is available or not. So that is very important. So single tool can be leveraged for the different technology stack. Integration with existing test automation frameworks, integration with the CI/CD tools, ease of use, scalability. So these are all some of the aspects, and other factors like we discussed earlier. Return on investment is very important. Tool vendor support is important, and the community support for the open source tools. Security aspects. So ensure the tool complies with the relevant security standards and regulations, especially for projects involving sensitive data, and availability of skilled resources. So these are all the important aspects that we need to consider. And we'll shortlisting the tools for our requirements. Thank you.
Understood. So I think those are some of the real good best practices that someone should implement while using AI in this testing workflows, and there's so much to learn there. So for our audience, there would be a poll coming up on your screen, and what we would love to know from you is that let's say, which testing activity do you think AI can simplify the most, given that there's so much that AI can help you with. So we'll just wait for 30 seconds for people to respond, Bala, and then we'll move on from there.
Sure. Thanks. We'll wait.
Folks, you should be able to see that poll on your screen. If not, please let us know. Cool. The poll would be live, I think, for another minute or so. So feel free to respond while we, continue our conversation with Bala. Cool. So Bala, now that we have talked about, how to implement it, and the opportunity is really big, and let's talk more about, the specific testing challenges for AI, right? How can AI help us with those, complex testing workflows? So what we would love to know from you is that how can they help address some of the more challenging aspects of test automation, like handling complex data sets or ensuring comprehensive test coverage on those lines?
Sure. Thanks, sir. So in fact, the AI can analyze large and complex data sets to identify the patterns, anomalies, and potential issues. But if you look at the test automation is pervasive and has to be performed for the heterogeneous technology stack. So we have to do test automation for web, desktop, legacy applications. In fact, ATM, point of sale kind of applications are there, API, microservices, mobile, ETL. So these are all the different technology stack that we need to consider. And we also have to analyze the AI applicability for the complex use cases. For example, ATM. So tomorrow there is a requirement coming. How I can address ATM automation with the help of AI and GenAI. Similarly, point of sale testing, IVR testing, interactive voice response testing, scripts migration. In fact, scripts migration, whether I can migrate to a low-code, no-code tool, that kind of a question also will come. So how to leverage, AI and GenAI for this requirement? It requires, thorough analysis, the tool fitment, all the different aspects, we need to take into consideration. And if you look at it, how can machine learning algorithms have to be used to identify the patterns in complex data sets? How can natural language processing to be used to generate, for example, ATM, POS, or IVR test cases from requirements? So we also need to see the possibility of leveraging LLMs to generate the native test automation tools. For example, IVR, there is a tool. So whether the LLM is able to generate the native tool script corresponding to the IVR requirement. Similarly, we already talked about scripts migration from source tool to target tool. How GenAI fitment to be ascertained. In many cases, with existing low code and no code tools, many scripts are already built and running. And if these tools lack AI and GenAI features, we may need to consider GenAI fitment for manual test case generation and leverage the existing low-code, no-code tools for test automation script generation. Many low-code, no-code tools are already incorporating AI and GenAI features, and the next versions are expected to be released soon. So we need to look at the release calendar and see how we can incorporate the AI and GenAI features corresponding to those tools. And millions of transactions happen every day involving complex data sets. lots of data flows happen between upstream and downstream systems. So how AI and GenAI can be leveraged to compare the data between multiple sources and target systems, ensuring data integrity and consistency. So this also is one of the important aspects. Wherever possible, introduce AI and GenAI interventions in identified areas within complex landscapes and proceed incrementally. AI models need to be continuously trained and updated to adapt to changing requirements and environment. Ethical considerations are also paramount in this process. So these are all some of the aspects, challenges that we need to encounter. Thank you.
Got it, Bala. So there's again like talking on the similar lines, like complex data sets and like comprehensive test coverage, and there's so much more testing challenges that AI can help us solve. And on similar lines, what we just released is a feature called self-healing. So what it would do is, you have a script written or which does your UI automation for a website, and then your DOM would change. There would be subtle changes in the DOM and some, let's say, UI changes in the DOM. And with this feature, you won't need to update the script on the go. Like it will be able to heal itself if your, let's say, selector is changing and stuff. So there would be a link in the chat, guys, if you want to explore that feature. So this is called self-healing, and currently it's live on Automate product of BrowserStack. So that's there. And again, on the similar on this thing as well, like we are seeing a great huge success, initial success on this feature as well. Like we are able to, heal. I'll say somewhere around 90-95% of your UI element failures. So again, with AI, there's no limit to what we can achieve, and we are already seeing some promising results there. So Bala, this was more around functional testing and things that we talked about. But do you feel that can AI make a difference in non-functional testing areas as well, like performance testing or security testing? If so, like if you could share some insights or examples from your experience.
Yeah, thanks. Definitely yes. In performance testing space, AI can analyze historical performance data and the user behavior patterns to generate future load patterns, so allowing customers to scale their infra to handle peak demand. So for example, AI can analyze past holiday sales data or peak hours traffic to predict the future peak loads. AI also would help to monitor the system performance and automatically adjust resource allocation to optimize resource times and throughput. Many performance monitoring tools already incorporated automatic root cause analysis, anomaly detection, identify performance bottlenecks, optimize application performance, predict potential issues, and provide analytic and insights. That is already happening. AI can swiftly pinpoint the performance bottlenecks and recommend troubleshooting steps. And when it comes to security testing, AI can continuously scan applications for any vulnerabilities to detect and prioritize the threats more effectively. We can leverage AI to automate penetration testing processes, including vulnerability scanning, exploitation attempts, and reporting. AI can integrate with threat intelligence feeds to identify emerging threats happening and proactively test for vulnerabilities. AI also can analyze the user behavior patterns for potential security breaches, such as unusual login attempts and all. So these are some of the points that probably AI and GenAI could contribute in non-functional space, testing space. Thank you.
Got it, Bala. So I know we touched upon your best practices and lessons learned in AI, but just briefly going a bit deep into what common mistakes or misconceptions do you often see when teams adopt AI for testing, and how can, like, if this can be avoided, how?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Shashank. In fact, a common misconception is AI will completely replace human testers. So it is not the case. In reality, AI can augment human efforts, but not entirely replace them. It's important to set realistic expectations and understand the limitations of AI technology. That is very, very important. Another misconception is AI is like a silver bullet. So AI is not a magic solution to all our testing problems. GenAI is a powerful tool. There is no doubt about that. But like any other technology, it comes with its own set of challenges. So what are they? In fact, we have to test the GenAI models. This is very, very important. It is crucial to rigorously test the GenAI models. Experts have differing opinions on whether GenA can produce a single ground source of truth or not. The expected output must be pragmatic and contextualized to our needs. For example, when generating payment-specific test cases, we must provide requirements, sample test cases, and other testing artifacts to strengthen the training. AI-generated test cases require thorough review and validation to check for bias and necessary refactoring. We need to measure the output using metrics like F1 score, blue metric, bird score is there, perplexity. These are all to compare the expected versus actual output. How the machine translated text is, performing against the human output. So human efforts are required to review and analyze the discrepancies. Prompt best practices and quality training data is essential to refine the models, which may also require significant efforts. Upskilling of existing QA resources in GenA tools and models, that also will consume some efforts. Ethical considerations due to bias also to be factored, compliance with regulations. And another important aspect is intellectual property infringement related issues that also have to be addressed, because we don't know how the LLM will fetch the information from internet sources and all. So it always requires a scrutiny, and we need to do a proper review. So where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. While GenA offers immense potential to revolutionize the test cases generation, it is crucial to approach its adoption with a balanced perspective. That is very, very important. Thank you.
Got it. So again, like I have been reiterating this again and again, the opportunity is really huge, and there's so much that has been already done, and people are sort of adopting it. But let's talk a bit more about the future and your expectations from the future. What excites you? How do you foresee the role of AI in, let's say, test automation evolving over the next few years? And are there any new emerging technologies or trends you are particularly excited about?
Excellent question. But AI augmented testing has already started, and it's the future way forward. AI-powered tools will be able to automatically identify and fix broken test scripts, reducing the maintenance efforts, and will improve the test reliability. And this would help to enable higher test coverage and faster test cycles. And AI can analyze the historical test data to predict the potential failures and prioritize testing efforts. So this will help teams to focus on critical areas and proactively address issues before they impact the users. So these are all some of the trends which are currently happening, Shashank. But if you look at the analyst reports, AI augmented testing usage will be around 70% by financial year 2025. And as per Google, 25% of its new development code is generated using GenAI. So AI coding assistants churn out millions of lines of code. The proliferation of AI and GenAI will reshape the industries. So down the lane in the next 3 to 5 years, AI will be everywhere, and every production application will be infused with AI features. So software testing will need to be agile before moving applications products to production. And in sprint automation will be prevalent for almost every application, making AI and GenAI usage inevitable. Co-pilots will translate the business requirements to application code, and in parallel, unit test cases, manual and test automation scripts will be generated. This is happening now, but future improvements will minimize the need for refactoring. New low-code and no-code tools, particularly IDs kind of tools, packaged tools, will be rolled out to perform specific testing activities. For example, we discussed earlier, ATM test accelerator, there will be ID available. So we can use that POS test accelerator, payments test accelerator. So these are all some of the tools that may emerge in the market over the period of time. And curated prompts will be generated with best practices and will be sold as reusable prompts as part of the engineering toolkit to accomplish a specific task. So this is also another important trend that we can anticipate. Tool vendors will incorporate AI and GenAI features to stay relevant in the market. There will be a plug and play AI and GenAI tools to support various quality engineering use cases. And we need to integrate these tools in our QA environment. That's the way we need to anticipate in future. These are all some of the trends which we will foresee and currently happening, Shashank. It keeps evolving over the period of time. Thank you.
Got it. So the future is really exciting, looks like, and a couple of good things that you mentioned is AI augmented testing or autonomous testing. So do you believe AI could eventually handle more complex testing tasks autonomously, or like do you think will human oversight and expertise would remain essential to it?
Yeah, thanks, Sachin. That's also a very good question. In fact, AI is still in the learning phase and is currently assisting and augmenting the test engineers, test automation engineers, supported with different quality engineering use cases. In fact, the GenAI models are probabilistic and not deterministic. So AI struggles with complex scenarios that require deep understanding and creativity and requires human expertise. Data scientists are optimistic about a new concept called agentic testers. So probably you might have seen in newspapers and all. This is the trend picking up. These agentic testers are expected to design, execute, and adapt tests autonomously based on business requirements and end user behaviors. In fact, some pilots are currently happening. So to move into a complete AI first approach, where AI will perform the entire complex testing tasks autonomously, may take some more time. However, human oversight and expertise will remain critical for ensuring the quality and reliability of software. We cannot avoid that. Testers act as a guardians, ensuring that the generated application code is free from vulnerabilities. So proper functional testing must be carried out with quality gates defined to ensure the code quality is enabled with AI and GenAI features. Session. Thank you.
Got it, got it. Folks, you would see another poll question. So we would love to know, like, what AI feature would add the most value to your overall testing strategy? And so if you could respond to this, Bala will take a just 30-second break for people to respond to this.
Sure, sure.
Again, folks, we have been talking about a lot of these things. There's the opportunities really huge. The future is exciting. There's Bala shared some of the best practices that help us or start leveraging AI in our team. So I think this is a very relevant thing for all of us to figure out that what features would add most value to our testing strategy. So please take out time to respond to this one. The poll would be live, I think, for another minute or so. Bala, we can, we'll move forward from there. So moving on from here, we would love to know more about your experiences into AI, like some of the practical insights and advice that we can derive from your experience. So, like, can you share a case where AI-driven test automation brought significant improvements to a project? What are the main factors that led to its success? So that's what we'll love to know from you.
Yeah, definitely. In fact, in TCS, we have a AML platform for quality engineering called a SmartField, which we are leveraging for multiple engagements. We have done multiple pilots and also progressed with AI and GenAI implementations in quality engineering. We are able to see the significant improvements brought by GenAI when it comes to different QA use cases, manual test case generation or test automation step generation, synthetic test data generation, SQL query generation. So we are able to see the improvements, and based on that, we are trying to see how we can come out with a comprehensive, long-term roadmap. So, and we are working with our customers.
Got it. Cool. So after this, like, let's say I, as a QA engineer, I'm like 100% acknowledge and would want to adopt AI and acknowledge that this is what is going to help me do my job better. Like, how would you recommend I upskill myself? Like, what resources or tools would you recommend for me to, like, let's say, get on hands-on experience?
Yeah, definitely very important. Yeah, thanks, Sachin, for this question. In fact, different courses are available for the quality, assurance engineers to upskill in AI and GenAI in collaboration with various service providers. In fact, Udemy is offering courses, LinkedIn, Google, AWS, and Microsoft. So these are all the different service providers offer customized, courses for the QA engineers. But it is also applicable for developers also. So hands-on labs online are also provided by these platforms to practice and experience GenAI with the different use cases. So once they complete the hands-on training, they should collaborate with their respective AI practice teams to perform small pilots, which will increase their confidence. In fact, the generative AI has democratized the software testing. So functional testers and business analysts can now perform activities beyond their existing skill set. For example, they can contribute to test automation scripts development. Test engineers can communicate with LLMs in plain English. In fact, LLMs have the capability also to understand different language dialects and translate them into various languages. So, localization requirements also we can leverage LLM. Based on this, automation engineers or test engineers can generate functional test cases, test automation scripts, and synthetic test data. Domain knowledge is very, very important, very crucial to validate the generated test cases and contributing to missing steps. In the future, the expectation of a test engineer will be to review the generated functional test cases. In fact, we already showed how BrowserStack is already coming out with the feature to process the PRD documents. So the generated test cases have to be reviewed by test engineer, and any additional code refactoring or missing steps to be added. So they will perform troubleshooting and apply the analytical skills. They also will need to stay updated with current AI and GenAI related technology trends and learn new AI and GenAI tools to leverage the knowledge gained in the respective projects. New quality engineering roles also will be created. For example, prompt test engineer, AI test engineer, GenAI test architect. So these are all some of the roles. In fact, some of them are already floated, and this kind of new roles will be coming in the will be rolled out in the coming days. By upskilling in AI and GenAI, quality assurance engineers can position themselves and grab these new opportunities and become valuable assets in the evolving testing landscape. Thanks, Sachin.
Got it. Folks, time for another poll. And as Bala mentioned, bridging the gap in on the skill front is one of the barriers that people might face, and there are ways to overcome that. But would love to know, what do you consider the biggest barrier to adopting AI in testing? Bala, we'll wait for another 30 seconds for people so that people can respond.
Definitely, Sachin. Thank you.
Guys, for some reason, if you don't see the poll, please let us know. Cool. Moving on from there, Bala, and just to wrap it up, what we would love to know from you is that in your entire testing journey, how does BrowserStack improve overall testing processes at TCS?
Thanks, Sachin. In fact, we are in collaboration with BrowserStack and integrated our one automation ecosystem. It is our low-code, no-code platform for mobile test cases automation. And we are also leveraging BrowserStack Cloud to execute web and mobile test automation scripts, so mainly for compatibility testing. And the accessibility features of BrowserStack, we are analyzing it. We are also analyzing the new feature of BrowserStack test observability, the quality gate feature, and the latest feature which you mentioned in the beginning. So how the BrowserStack AI feature, manual test case generation from PRDs, and how it generates the low code, no code automation scripts that are also we are exploring. Thank you.
Got it, Bala. I think this is it. We are the mark of the time. So thank you so much, Bala, for your time. And I think everyone on the call would be much wiser in terms of how AI can help them, and would be. I'm really, really grateful for this interview and this session. Over to you, Sai, with this.
Thanks, Sachin, for the insightful questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Bala.
Thank you so much for the discussion, folks. It was definitely very helpful for me also. Folks, there's one last poll question on your screens right now. If you do want us to reach out to you to talk about BrowserStack's AI workflows, please do let us know on that. We'll just give you 30 seconds to respond to it, and then we'll move on to the Q&A section. All right, we have quite a few interesting questions, Shashank and Bala. I'll just go through them. Please do let us know if you can answer them. One of the first questions that was of interest to me was about if or not there are any effective ways to generate realistic test data using AI. Bala, you had spoken about it in the beginning.
Yeah, in fact, we are able to see how GenA would be helpful to generate synthetic test data. But and we need to look at the different factors. So whether it is a static data or dynamic data. So if it is a static data, then leveraging GenA models would be very helpful, and we will be able to generate. But if it is dynamic data, we need to see how actually we need to generate, because the way how the data flows between upstream, downstream systems, and which are all the different constraints we need to look at it. Probably we have to explore more and see how it has to be addressed. Since it is an emerging area, people are trying to do pilots and see how synthetic test data can be generated. But definitely, algorithms are available. So we need to see how to apply the relevant algorithm for the appropriate, test data generation and apply and progress further.
Thank you so much, Bala. Well, there was also a discussion about how test artifacts are gathered. But then, if when we have tools such as Jira and Azure DevOps, how do they come into the picture? Are there any changes that you anticipate over there? How does context get gathered there?
In fact, Jira or Azure DevOps, they are primarily hosting or holding the artifacts, test artifacts. But the important point to be considered is whether the test artifacts are having quality data. So for example, the Jira is having defect data, and if the defect descriptions are a single line, then it's difficult for the large language model to come to a conclusion. So it has to be descriptive as much as possible for LLM to understand what would be the information that it has to process, and how the similar patterns are there in other defects, etc. So the quality of the data is very, very important. So defects or the Jira or Azure DevOps are hosting the information, but how actually we have to process the data is very important.
Got it. Thanks, Bala. Is there any way we can use AI in security testing right now? Are there any tools out there that have experimented with this?
In fact, people are coming out with the prototypes and all. So I already mentioned how it would be helpful to do the vulnerabilities, etc. and all as part of the security testing. But probably I am currently not seeing any particular tool name or something. But lots of tools are emerging, and engineering teams are also building prototypes and trying to set it up and do the pilots and all in their respective projects.
Got it. There have also been multiple requests about if you could name any open source AI tools which can help in testing.
But see, the way what I can say is the open source tools like Selenium. In fact, Playwright is picking up. In fact, I think the last webinar also BrowserStack conducted. The Playwright features have been highlighted with what are all the additional features that have been incorporated, like smart weights, annotations, and other features and all. So we actually have to see, because the way the open source tools are available currently, Selenium, Cypress, or Playwright, we are able to generate the target automation scripts with large language models and all. So we need to see a combination of LLM with the open source tools, how that would be more effective, and probably the open source community should think of investing and come out with the additional features. For example, Selenium is there. In fact, Heal plus Selenium, that is there for self-healing. So we need to include Selenium libraries for self-healing. That's the way we need to augment and integrate these tools for our customized environment.
Thanks, Bala. There was just to carry forward from the security testing bit, uh, obviously safety is one of the biggest issues about adopting, which is preventing some people from adopting AI, right? About when you're performing security testing, how safe is it? Because we do have some sensitive workflows such as banking details, personal details. There is PII, right? So how does one safeguard themselves against pitfalls?
So I think I already covered this aspect when I was responding to Shashank, with respect to security testing side. So in fact, penetration testing processes. So we need to see how we can leverage AI to automate the penetration testing process, and how the vulnerability scanning, exploitation, attempts, and reporting all are packaged as part of this. To see how we can leverage AI and Gen AI for our requirement, particularly AI actually in this case. So in fact, the engineering teams are coming out with the solutions and all, but we need to look, and see which one would be a better solution for our requirement. So probably the tools also will, security testing tools are there, so they also will adopt this in future.
Got it. Got it. Could you spend just a minute on how effective AI could be with backend test automation, like systems available to access only via AWS, for example?
Yeah, it's a very good question, Sai. Probably, if it is, extract, transform, load kind of a testing, ETL, I think people are also trying to see how it can be attempted with the existing tools, or how Python kind of scripts can be written, and see how the data flows between source and target can be compared. So they actually are trying to do that, and we need to see what would be the different backend testing requirements. So one is actually ETL I covered about, and the other one is probably if we need to compare the data against the database, and with the UI and all, we need to write custom scripts only.
Got it. Got it. Understood. There are a couple of questions about any certifications that would help. Since we spoke about upskilling for QAs and testers, right? Are there any certificates that already exist, or do you foresee any of them coming up to make sure the QA role is future proof?
In fact, the certifications are coming for AI side, and we have to apply that knowledge, in quality engineering. So, for example, I have recently completed one of the certification courses from IIT Kharagpur. So AI for ICPS actually. So I for enabled processing systems and all. So this is one of the certification courses I have recently completed. So there are other lots of other courses are in fact Google is coming out with a course. So they actually have customized courses for the different skill sets. So we need to look at the appropriate course relevant to our requirements. So definitely there will be lots of learnings, and we need to see how it has to be applied. Once we actually do a hands-on lab and all. Right.
Understood. There's one question here about how. So there are legacy systems, right? They're more than 10 years old and they have not been updated due to technical constraints, migration challenges, etc. Or do you foresee AI being helpful in testing these kind of systems?
In fact, I talked about earlier side for legacy. So, what is the appropriate automation tool that was used, in fact, or currently used? So, there are low-code, no-code tools available, or tools like UFT used, or Tosca kind of tools used, etc. So, if the AI-enabled features, in fact, these tools are also coming out with the AI and Gen AI roadmap in the coming days. So, if that is the case, we have to leverage the existing tools only. Otherwise, I already mentioned earlier, new tools are emerging in the market. IDs will be rolled out. So, probably I was highlighting about ATM or POS accelerator. Similarly, for legacy, AS400 or mainframe, there might be accelerator that would be coming, with AI and Gen AI features. But existing tools are available. So they also will be enhanced with AI and GenAI features.
Got it. Understood. Cool. Thank you so much for that, Bala. In fact, we have run through many of the questions. If any of the questions we weren't able to answer, we will do it in the follow-up email in which we will send a recording as well. Thank you so much for joining on that question. Bala, I have one question of my own, apart from what is there in the Q&A section. So there is a need for converting manual test cases to automation test cases, right? These days. So do you know of any? Can you name any open source AI tools that convert these manual test cases with those steps to automation scripts? Say for example, to TestNG.
So open source tools I was talking about, see, for example, Selenium is there, Cypress is there. So how you are going to process your manual test cases, which you will issue as a prompt to large language model, and you are providing the training details to large language model, maybe in a vector DB. How it actually has to generate the target automation scripts, for example, Cypress or Playwright or whatever tool, and the corresponding framework details. So based on that, it will generate the target automation scripts side. That's the way, because the way the open source tools probably, even if somewhere earlier Catalan and all was a freeware tool, later they have become commercialized. So we need to see how open source community is coming out with this kind of tools and all. It's under exploration only because it actually requires time and efforts from the community.
Got it. Thank you so much, Bala, so much for joining the session. Hopefully, we'll see you in the next session as well. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Bala.